I've been trying to think of an analogy that will explain the major flaws in Austrian economics that Martin Armstrong exposes on his blog. One way to think of it is that the laws of physics are the same at the North Pole as they are at the equator, but conditions at the North Pole are very different from conditions on the equator. So changes that can occur very rapidly at the North Pole can take a long time on the equator and vice versa. A warm, wet wind at the North Pole will cause snow, while a warm, wet wind on the equator will cause rain. Yes, both are precipitation, but we all know the difference. To get rain at the North Pole would require a drastic change in conditions, just as snow on the equator would first require a drastic change in conditions there. Same laws, different conditions. Similarly, economic laws are everywhere the same, but conditions are not. Austrian economics ignores the conditions and assumes that everybody everywhere will react precisely the same. Austrians also tend to ignore the law of supply and demand. Yes, you heard me right. Where currency and inflation are concerned, they assume that increasing the money supply will always lead to price inflation. The Federal Reserve in the United States increases the money supply. The Austrian school calls this monetary inflation. Okay, fine. They expect to see it reflected by an increase in price inflation, except some prices have gone down. Now, I reject the accuracy of the official inflation rate. They've been twisting the equation to make themselves look good for decades. But while some prices have gone up, others have gone down. Despite massive money printing in America, we have not seen massive price inflations. Why is this? Years after Martin Armstrong explained it, the Austrians finally got caught up with him. They explained it as the US dollar is the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. So many markets around the world are willing to exchange their horrible currency for the less horrible dollar. In other words, supply and demand. Here's a fairly typical Austrian explanation for price inflation. If you have an economy with 10 eggs and $10, so that each egg costs $1, but then you suddenly double the money supply to $20, the price of the eggs will double to $2. This ignores the conditions. The price of eggs might actually drop. They might go down. What if the employer in this economy has announced they are going to lay off half the workers? The egg farm is being automated. Seeing that they could soon be unemployed, many of the people begin hoarding dollars. So despite that the government is printing more dollars, hoarding reduces the money supply and prices begin to fall. You have monetary inflation without price inflation. Or maybe the government cuts the money supply in half. By Austrian theory, decreasing the money supply should lead to lower prices. But prices go up. Why? What if the government defaulted on its debt? Now everybody has lost confidence in that government and wants to get rid of their dollars and trade them for Swiss francs. Monetary inflation goes down, but prices go up as people dump dollars for Swiss francs. The laws of physics are everywhere the same, but the conditions vary. When the Weimar Republic defaulted on its debts, the resulting hyperinflation from people fleeing the Deutschmark led the government to crank up the printing presses. The default led to a loss of confidence, which first caused price inflation and then hyperinflation as the government tried to compensate, with money and monetary inflation to keep up. The Austrians got it wrong. As the Roman Empire changed from a republic to an oligarchy, and then a dictatorship that destroyed the economy, people actually began hoarding Roman money. Not just the gold and silver money, but also the bronze money. Recently, Stefan Molyneux did one of his Truth About videos, this one on the subject of the collapse of the Roman Empire, in which he employed classic Austrian theory to explain it. He ignored the hoarding, the defaults, typical for an Austrian analysis. I encourage everybody to go to Martin Armstrong's blog, dig in, work your way backwards, read all the old posts. There are years worth. Several of them deal with the collapse of Rome. If he has one all-inclusive blog post starting at 753 BC and working forward, I haven't found it. His blog postings on the subject are scattered throughout. but his posts include all the relevant data, including what Austrians ignore. This puts our past in a very different light, and our future. It's all there. The Austrians have it wrong. Not everything. The laws of physics are everywhere the same, at least here on Earth. I don't pretend to understand black holes and quantum physics. But the Austrians ignore conditions, and that has caused them to get a lot of things wrong.